Okay, we're going to go right to the speaker. He has another speaking engagement to follow, so we'll start off with Jim Remy. Many of you know him, but those of you who don't, we're fortunate to have him with us today. He's been a PGA member since 1984. He started as the Vice President and GM of the Okimo Valley Golf Course in 1984. He was elected President of the PGA in 2008. Making him the 36th president of the organization. There is a spotlight on him from Okimo Valley TV from the August 13th edition, and all around good guy. Jim, tell us a little bit about yourself, what's going on with the course and your PGA and whatever else.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's my pleasure to be here. I've had the opportunity to speak a few times at the Rotary. I think way back when we first announced that we would build the Okimo Valley Golf Course, I had a presentation, and I think I've done it a couple times. I'm going to try not to bore you with all these my history, but I think this came about because of Ralph Pace and doing the spotlight for Ralph Pace on the Ludlow TV station was really fun a few weeks back, or about a month or so ago. He did a great job. He really did. He was a great interviewer, and it was fun to be interviewed, you know, and sort of reminisce a little bit about the background and everything that took place to kind of lead me to where I am today. So I'll do a shorter version. That was pretty long on that TV show, but I'll do a shorter version today. I mean, a lot of people think I'm from Vermont, but I originally grew up in Massachusetts, grew up in central Mass at a town called Leominster, Massachusetts, which was known for years as the plastic capital of the world. And I'll get back to that in a minute. More plastic factories there than anywhere in the country in the 70s, and including big ones like Foster Grant and DuPont and all kinds of giant companies. I grew up in Leominster as an athlete, basically loved sports, and sat in high school when I should have been probably paying more attention to English and science, and I paid more attention to sports and trying to figure out a way to make a living in the sports world. I was a pretty good baseball player and a good football player, but not good enough. And I was a pretty good skier, which I came out of a little ski area down in Massachusetts. I started skiing there when I was about 10 years old, and I started working there when I was 14 years old. I was teaching skiing when I was 14 years old at a little ski area down in Massachusetts called Pheasant Run. Doesn't exist anymore, but it got my start. So after high school, I convinced my mother that I needed to go to Vermont for 1 year to teach skiing. And then I would come home and you know, get serious and go to college and do all the things that I was supposed to do. That was 1972. I drove my 1967 Mustang to Ludlow, Vermont on December 1st, 1972, with about $80 in my pocket. And I had a room at the Trestle House. You know where the Trestle House is, right on Andover Street? I had a room at the Trestle House, cost $25 a week. And I had to pitch in $20 for food. So that was $45, and the rest probably went to the chopping block. If anybody remembers the old chopping block nightclub, it was a lot of fun. And I got my start. Al Cishak was the ski school director then, Dave Rock. And many of you probably know Dave Rock. Dave Rock was the general manager, and I got my start. $100 a week to teach 6 classes a week, 6 days a week, 2 classes a day, and I could get $6 extra pay if I taught a private lesson, and $9 if it had 2 people in it. The lessons in those days were $12 for a private lesson. They're obviously not $12 anymore. So anyway, I loved skiing and fell in love with the sport and loved working at Okimo, and was sort of the first part of my career. Needless to say, I never went home. I've been in Ludlow almost my entire life. I did leave to get my PGA membership card for a while in summertime, but I worked at Okimo the first time. I worked at Okimo from 1972 to 1984 as a ski instructor, race coach, director of racing, a number of different things. And in the summertime, ironically, I had to find a job every summer. So I did just about everything you can imagine. I did construction work and landscaping and bartending and whatever I could do to get through to the next winter. That was the goal. And around 1979, I met a gentleman named Ed Bello, who was the golf professional at Fox Run Golf Course in those days. It was the little Fox Run Golf Course. And I played golf with Ed quite a bit. And one day I thought, this is the greatest thing in the world. If I could just figure out how to be a golf pro in the summertime and have skiing in the wintertime, I would finally have a year-round job. So I thought, Ed came in late most days, played golf, had lunch, and went home. And I thought, geez, if I could get paid to do that, this would be perfect. And so he got me pointed in the right direction. And I landed a job as the third assistant golf professional and caddy master at the Worcester Country Club in Worcester, Mass. So at the end of the ski season, I headed down to Worcester, and I worked there for 4 years as an apprentice, trying to learn my trade as a golf professional. And I spent 4 years at Worcester Country Club. And in September, kind of a funny story, I think it was September of 1984. It was either 83 or 84. I had just was about ready to get my Class A PGA membership, which would then allow me to become a head professional somewhere. And at the time, I had a phone conversation with nobody other than Frank Heald. And Frank Heald was the general manager at Pico. I got to tell this story because he's smiling. I got to tell this story because I almost left the golf business and went to work for Frank Heald at Pico. And for some reason, I think he talked me out of it because I had spent so much time getting my PGA card. And I stayed in the golf business. And it's funny because who knows, if I had taken that fork in the road, my whole life would have changed. I met my wife while I was at Worcester, and in 1984, we were married, and we moved to Vermont, and I became the head golf professional at the Killington Golf Resort, working at Killington. And I was there for 13 years as the director of golf, and also I was the director of Alpine Racing and ran the Alpine Training Center. So I figured out how to have skiing and golf and be in one place, and I was there from 1984 to 1997. A great run. Killington was booming in those days. We were doing more than 1 million skier visits a year. It was just an incredible time to work for Preston Smith and Hank Lundy and work with people like Frank when he came over to work at Killington for a while. And it was just, it was a booming time in the business. We were growing so fast we could hardly keep up. But I learned so much because I sat on the management board for Killington as a senior manager type position and learned from some of the best people in the business, from people like Preston Smith and Hank Lundy and Bob Fenner and John Clifford and Foster Chandler, just kind of legends in the industry. And so I stayed there through 97, and the story is that I was down at the merchandise show in Florida, the PGA annual merchandise show every year, and I had a voicemail on my office phone from Tim Muller at Okimo, Vermont. And Tim left me a message, and he said, would you stop by and see me? I'd like to talk to you about something. So when I got back, I stopped down to see him. And he told me at the time, this was in the middle of the winter of 97, he said, we're thinking about building a golf course. And we were wondering if you could just give us some advice. That's how it all started. So for about 5 months, I would stop down once a month and talk to Tim and Dan about building a golf course at Okimo. They were committed to making Okimo a 4-season resort, and the golf course was a huge part of it. And we talked for months about it. At the time, Tim was negotiating we were going to build it over where Jackson Gore is now. Actually, the first golf course was designed to be built over at Jackson Gore, but it was tight and there wasn't enough land really to do what we needed to do. We wanted to build a world-class resort golf course, and it was tight. And I guess as the story goes, he had been trying to buy the land, Fox Run golf course from the Garvey family because he owned the land that was south of where the driving range is now. He owned that land. That was originally at one time was maybe going to be the Volvo tennis site. I don't know if a lot of people don't know that. They were going to move the Volvo tennis tournament from Stratton to Okimo, and they were going to put it on that site where the driving range is now, but it never happened. So he owned that piece of land, and we announced that we were going to build a golf course where Jackson Gore is now, and lo and behold, Pat Garvey Sr. called Tim and said, "I changed my mind, I'll sell you the course." So that's kind of how the whole story went down. We bought the course. I came on board December 1st, 1997. We went through the permitting process to build the resort. It took, I ran Fox Run the first year I was here with the help of Rick Doyle and PJ Garvey was there. And then Labor Day 1998, we closed the golf course. We closed Fox Run. And within 7 days, we had torn down the entire place. We had torn down the buildings. We had bulldozed the golf course, but we didn't take down the trees on the old golf course. All the sight lines for the old holes were still there. And we went under construction. And as our superintendent, Rod Williams, said, it wasn't a construction project, it was a war. It took over 2 years to complete it. At times we had 10 rock trucks going 7 days a week. It was an incredible project, something I'll never forget being the project manager at the time. It was incredible to see how, that golf course was built. And the unique thing about that golf course is we never used one stick of dynamite. It was on the north side of the Black River, which is a glacial till area. So we had plenty of topsoil. We actually had more topsoil than we needed, but we did do incredible cut and fill. We moved over 1 million cubic yards of dirt to build that golf course. And to put that in perspective, 1 million cubic yards is basically a pile of dirt the size of a football field that's 400 feet high. So that's a lot of dirt. And we opened the golf course fully in late 2000, after 2 years of construction. It was a complete success right from the get-go. We sold out of memberships within 3 weeks. At the time, we had 400 members and hundreds of people on a waiting list, and it was a great success right off the bat. And all I could say is it was a great experience, and it was built so well. During that time, I had been involved quite heavily with local PGA. I was the president of the Vermont chapter of the PGA of America, and then went on to be the president of the New England chapter. There's about 1,200 golf professionals in New England, so I was president of the New England chapter. The New England section. And I got involved on a national basis by attending national meetings, and I was identified, I guess, as a potential candidate to run for national office. No one from New England has ever been a national officer or had been a national officer at that time. They generally came from California and Texas and New York and, Florida. So on a long shot, I ran for office, and I was elected secretary in 1990. Oh, excuse me. I don't know. I can't remember the year now. 2004, I was elected. Served 2 years as the secretary, 2 years as the vice president, 2 years as the president, and then 2 years as honorary president. And I still serve today as a past president of the association, and I'm still involved. During my time in office, I flew over 1.5 million miles, traveled most of the world. I spent 1,000 days on the road in 8 years. Tim Muller was incredible to me. Tim and Diane were so supportive. I literally ran Okimo Valley Golf Club by BlackBerry at the time especially the 2 years I was president. 2 years I was president, I was on the road 350 days, over the 2 years. So it was something. I got to go to incredible places, do incredible things. was on the rules committee at 10 Masters championships. I went to the Open Championship in Scotland and Ireland and England, and I've been to every Ryder Cup since 1999, every PGA Championship since 1997. Just incredible, you know. To be able to experience the things that I experienced, and you know, and to represent 28,000 people. There are 28,000 PGA professionals in the United States. It's the largest working sports organization in the world. And as far as a sports organization that everyone is actually employed in the business. It's interesting because to be a member of the PGA, it's an association of employment. You have to be employed or have, you know, reached life member status. So you represent members all over the country, and I'll never forget, you know, the hundreds of times I flew across the country to meetings. You know, looking down as we flew over the country at some giant open area of the United States, knowing that I was representing a PGA member that was right down there that day. So it was pretty moving, and it was incredible. And I think what made it even more special to me was that I was from Vermont, you know, and I was proud of that. And I told many, many people, you know, do you know where I come from? And they said, and you know, most people didn't even know where Vermont was. Prince Charles thought Vermont was in Virginia. When I met Prince Charles, I had dinner with him, and he thought Vermont was in Virginia. I said, no, it's in New England. Oh, yes, he said. Anyway, to come from a town like Ludlow, you know, with less 2,000 people, and I always used to say 2,000 people and one traffic light. I guess we have more now, but I was pretty proud of that I was from here and from New England. So, because I was the first officer. So it was an incredible experience and very proud of it. And during that time, you know, I ran Okimo Valley Golf Club from its inception in 1997 till 2018 when Vail bought Okimo. I didn't make the cut with Vail, which wasn't surprising. We had a lot of senior management people that kind of went on to do something else. In hindsight, it was, you know, it was great. I was 64 years old when it happened. My thought was I was going to retire. I was prepared to retire, and you know, had a great exit with Tim Muller, and Tim was great to me, and the company was awesome. Just, you know, all positive. And after 4 weeks, I was bored stiff. I didn't know where to go every day. It was like, what do I do? I mean, I've been going to a ski area or a golf course every day of my work life since 1972. Where am I going to go today? And so there was a job that opened up with the PGA of America. I'm also now the first PGA of America past president ever to be now employed by the PGA of America, which caused some interesting conversations. Should we hire a past president? You know, it was interesting. And I was hired as a career services consultant for the New England region. I have all the New England states. And my job is really something that I love to do. My job is to help PGA members find jobs and to help employers find PGA members. And I do career services and career consulting, and spend most of my time these days on the phone or on computer advising young PGA members on, you know, how to improve their careers, what avenues to take, what education to take, what jobs to apply for. I work with employers on designing and building jobs when you know, sometimes like a recent one, I'm doing a job down in Worcester Country Club where I actually got my start in the business. And, you know, the PGA professional had been there for 21 years. And so he's retiring and helping them because the club hasn't hired a PGA professional as a head, you know, in that position for over 20 years. So I assist the clubs in doing that. So it's a lot of fun. I get to meet great people. I still love to ski. Skied probably 50 days this winter between Okimo and other areas. I still ski race in some senior events, still play golf in senior events. And, you know, I guess I'm just a big kid at heart who, you know, sat in a high school class thinking if I could just make a living in sports. And here I am, 66 years old, and I've gone to work at a ski area or a golf course just about every day of my life. So it's been a great career. And I think in hindsight, the neatest thing about it is that for so long, the industry, especially the ski industry, had this idea that you couldn't make a good living in the ski industry, that there weren't good jobs in the ski industry. And I can tell you that I've been employed by Okimo, Killington, and then Okimo again, and had a wonderful career in the ski business and in the golf business. And I wouldn't change one thing about it. It was really fun. So one of the things I was supposed to say, future plans. My future plans are, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Darlene's retired now. She retired on June 20th after 4 years of being a speech pathologist virtually. I think she was ready to retire. It was a tough spring, being on the computer 8-9 hours a day. But she spent 40 years as a speech pathologist. She's been incredible. And she's still involved now, volunteering for the Women's Club and for the Black River Good Neighbor and a lot of things. And she's keeping busy, and she tells me she's happy. She's playing golf about 5 days a week, but she says she's happy and she doesn't miss it. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do until what I'm doing now, until I don't feel like I'm happy anymore, and we'll see what happens. But I know one thing. We have a house in Florida, and we have a house up here on South Hill. I bought this house in 1984 from the Moxit family. It was originally owned by Fred Jelly, if anybody knew Fred Jelly. And we've renovated it 3 times since 1984, and it's my home. And so we're going to keep this home here in Ludlow, and we're going to stay at some point. You know, we'll go down to Florida some this winter, but I plan on skiing a lot. And as we get older, maybe we'll split time. But you know, I love Ludlow. Been here since I was 18 years old, and we're going to keep this house. So with that, I guess if anybody has a question, I'll open it up. There's probably more than you needed to know.
No, that was great. I have a couple. One is, what's your handicap? And the other is, ever have a hole-in-one?
Yes, my handicap is about, right now, 4.3 index, and I've had 7 hole-in-ones.
Nice.
Wow. 2 at Okimo. I had 3 at Okimo. I had 3 at Okimo. I had 2 on number 17 and 1 on 8. My most recent one was this year.
Nice. Congrats. Anyone else have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Bridget.
Hi, Jim. So when I left the industry that included a lot of golf courses, there was a real concern by the PGA that younger players were not golfing anymore. Is that still a trend, or has that changed?
Yeah, that's a great statement, because it was true, and may be true. We saw the golf industry shrink from about 28 million to about 23, 24 million. Millennials were part of the change. Millennials had some issues focusing. They didn't see the social aspect of it. You know, golf is as much a sport as it is a social activity, and you get to be with your friends, and you spend 4 hours, and you have lunch afterwards, and it's fun. And millennials struggled to see it the same way we did, the same way Generation X saw it. So it's we have seen that. Ironically, and this is really crazy, the pandemic has been one of the best things for golf. This year, the golf industry is booming. It didn't open up that way. A lot of courses didn't get open until May. Okimo didn't even get open until June 26th. But since then, the golf industry is booming. People are flocking to the golf course because it's an outdoor activity. It's fun. They feel safe on the golf course. You know who you're with. You're not in a crowd. Junior programs have taken off. There's a program called the National Junior Golf League, which is like Little League for golf now. It's taken off. It's booming. So we're seeing because, ironically, because of the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of interest in golf. And we're certainly hoping that it continues. Look, there's something, golf is it's a game of a lifetime. You can do it your entire life. You can't play football your entire life. You can't play soccer your entire life. There's a lot of things you can't do your entire life. You can golf your entire life. And it's healthy, it's activity, you're outdoors, it's social. I remember when I was president, I used to make the statement that it's even proven that people who play golf live longer than people who don't play golf because they're outside and they're active. Even if you ride a cart, you're still outside and you're still walking and you're still active. And we used to measure how many steps you took by walking, how many steps you took by riding. It's good for you, it's healthy. So hopefully we'll see that resurgence continue.
Okay, Art, you had something? Your microphone, there you go.
Two things. Number one, I was involved, it was myself and a friend of mine reached out to Jim Westhall at the Volvo International Tennis Tournament and helped build that $18 million stadium and brought them to New Haven. So it's funny to hear the mention of that 40 years ago, 30 years ago. Yeah.
It was at Stratton for years and the move, we were trying to get it to move here and it just never took place, I guess, but.
Yeah. We were number 2 and we put together a number 1 package for them. So Okimo was number 1. That was.
I think it was a stretch for Okimo at the time.
Yeah. What do you see the future of the golf course? Obviously, with the late opening and early closing, it's not high on the Vail priority list. What do you see the future of Okimo Valley Golf Club?
Yeah, well, obviously, I built the place and ran it for 21 years, so it's something that's dear to my heart. I don't want to see it closed, ever closed. I think it's a great asset to our community. I think it's important that we continue to keep community involvement by having affordable memberships. I think it's important that they continue to support junior golf and continue to support the high school. We ran the high school golf team for years. I hope it continues on. I think, Vail is a ski company. They sell Epic passes. Their focus is not golf, but they do have 8 or 9 golf courses as part of their ski properties. There is rumors that, that they are entertaining the idea of selling the golf course, but that hasn't come to fruition yet. If any of you have taken a ride by Tater Hill, it's sad. It's sad to see Tater Hill closed and growing in, and it may never be a golf course again. And Tater Hill was just as important to Londonderry, Chester, Andover, Wyndham as Okimo Valley Golf Club is to to Ludlow. So I pray that doesn't happen. I'm trying to help in any way I can. And, hopefully we'll see that. We're talking apples and oranges between Tater Hill and Okimo. Okimo is a resort golf course and a resort community. Tater Hill was more of a local golf course and local community. But, hopefully we'll see it stay. It's a gem. It's a gem, just like Okimo is a gem. Okimo is a great ski area. And Okimo Valley Golf Club is a fantastic golf course, and I hope it stays and is healthy. And if there's whatever I can do, I'm certainly going to be there to help.
Anyone else with a question? Go ahead, Glenn.
Hey, Jim. Your story is fascinating. I'm glad to hear you're still skiing. I'm hoping to bump into you on the lift once again, although I don't know what impact social distancing will have with.
We have to make the same reservation.
Right. And before I continue, I just want to make sure that I make an appointment with Frank about career guidance, because it sounds like he gave you some good information there. You did not say anything about education. Maybe you didn't go to college, or you did some remedial educational work, or you did something on the side. Tell me about that aspect of your career.
Well, I was supposed to go back and go to college, and I didn't. I stayed in the ski industry, and I did do some business courses at Vermont Community College of Vermont at the time, just to learn a little bit about business. But I will tell you, my greatest education came from my involvement in the business. As a manager at Okimo, even up until 1984, you were involved in the management of the facility. But when I went to Killington, I got to tell you, I sat in a room with the brightest people in the industry. And I just sat there. When they invited me in to be on the senior management level and sit in on these management meetings every Wednesday, my education came from going to work every day and working with some of the best people in the business. In the golf industry, I had to go to business schools and learn the business of golf and learn, those are, more like trade type business schools. And, I had to learn how to teach and learn how to run a golf course. But I will tell you that when I left, in 1995 or 4, when I was elected to the section office in the New England section, the experience that I brought from being in the management room every week at Killington, what I brought to the PGA and what I brought literally to Okimo when I came back was an education that you can't buy. You can't buy that education. I worked with the best people in the business for 13 years at Killington. And it's funny because I used to preach this at Okimo management meetings. I would be in the management meeting at Okimo, and I would end up talking about the meetings that I was involved with every week at the Big K. And that was during a time when they were just kicking butt. They were just really, it was amazing. And that experience and education, I feel got me to where I am in the PGA, but it also got me to Okimo. Because I asked him one time, why did you call me? And he said, we've been following your career, and we knew that that you were doing well, and we wanted you to come back. Because when I left in 1984, I shook his hand on the way out the door, and I shook his hand, and I said, if you ever get in the golf business, call me. I'd love to come back someday. And he called me 13 years later, so it's pretty.
Thank you.
Great start. Anybody else? Not seeing any more. Well, then, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
Jim, you've traveled all around the world. Give us a couple of your favorite golf courses that you've played and visited, please.
I get that question a lot. What's my favorite golf course? I've played just about every great golf course in the world. I always say I have 3 favorites, not in any specific order. There are 3 favorites. Well, outside of Okimo Valley. I have 3 favorites. Number 1 is Augusta National. Obviously, the site of the Masters. When you go there, it's just incredible to be playing the same course that the Masters is held on. Number 2 is a course in Monterey Peninsula called Cyprus Point, where Cyprus Point is as good as Augusta, only nobody plays there. They've never had a big tournament. Ben Hogan said it was his favorite course, and I think Cyprus Point is my second favorite. Well, my top 3. And my other one, without a doubt, is the old course at St. Andrews. I played there a few times, and it's the only course where I really had butterflies in my stomach when I walked off the first tee. I think, Frank, you played there, right? It makes, you're at the birthplace of the game. That's where golf started. The history and tradition. You look around at St. Andrews and you say, my God, this is unbelievable. So I always say St. Andrews, and it's just the whole experience of being in St. Andrews. I've had the opportunity to play many courses in Ireland and England and Scotland, but without a doubt, I'm not saying it's the best course, it's just the greatest experience. I literally was, walking off the first tee the first time I played there, knowing that I was playing at the birthplace of the game.
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, since Jim brought it up, I have to tell you a quick story. I share the experience in St. Andrews. I had hair stiffening where I don't have hair. It's chilling to stand on that first tee. But we were on a Rotary trip to Ludlow, England, and ended up in Scotland to play. And Jim had arranged for us a tea time at St. Andrews. We didn't have any paperwork. When we arrived at the starter, they said, well, where's your paperwork? Ron Bixby, who was kind of the chair of our little group, said, our pro at Okimo, Jim Remy, had arranged for this. Oh, Mr. Remy. And you think to God, and from that point on, it was just boom. So Jim had an influence over over lots of places in the world. I found that very interesting.
Very nice. Go ahead, Glenn.
Jim, you ever play golf at any of the president's golf courses? Have you ever played with Mr. Trump? And does he really cheat when he plays golf?
I have never played with Mr. Trump.
Okay.
Now, I have played with both President Bushes. I played in Maine with President H.W., and then I played in Waco, Texas with W.
Wow.
And they're just fantastic people. I played I got a hole in one at Andrews Air Force Base, and Barack Obama signed my flag. He was in the same group, and he signed a hole in one flag from Andrews Air Force Base. I have it in my house in Florida. So I played with, I've been around in 3 presidents. I've been to the White House with the Ryder Cup team. George W. had us to the White House, and I sat in the president's chair outside the Oval Office in the conference room. There's the big table outside the Oval Office, and the team. I was with the Ryder Cup team, and the team was waiting in the conference room to go in to be with the president, and the handler who was handling us let the team sit in all the chairs except one chair at this big conference table, and then he walked over to me and he said, I was the president of the PGA at the time, and he says, Mr. President, that chair is for the president. And so I got to sit in the president's chair, and I asked, why is this the president's chair? And he said, because long ago it was built to be 3 inches higher than all the rest of the chairs. So kind of a funny story. And then we went in and we visited with the president for, 45 minutes, and he was just fantastic. He really was. He told a great story about, he says, it's tough to be the child of a president. It's even tougher to be the parent of a president. He said, my mother calls me every day. So.
I bet. All right. Well, that's a great ending there. Thank you again so much.
It's my pleasure. And special thanks to Frank for our friendship, long-term friendship, and all the things that you've done for our town. I mean, you're a great town manager, and hope you're enjoying your retirement. Maybe we should play golf, even though you're left-handed. I'll play with you. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again. Appreciate that.